Hello and welcome to Empowered, a podcast bridging generations to normalize midlife health because menopause isn't just a woman's issue, it's everyone's conversation. I'm Valerie Tan, Gen Z co-founder of Surety, a social impact platform amplifying midlife voices across workplaces, communities, and beyond. In each episode, we'll unpack powerful stories, practical insights, and expert wisdom from HR leaders and healthcare professionals to community champions so you are equipped to support your own midlife journey or champion inclusive wellness in your organization. I'm so thrilled to welcome our guest for today's session, Janani Chandran, a seasoned senior program manager, devoted mother, and a passionate advocate for women in the workplace. So spending 17 years in Singapore, Janani recently relocated to Austin, Texas, where she's currently embracing a short career break to settle in with her family. And throughout her career, she's led global teams, mentored hundreds of women returning to work, and championed inclusive workplace community as a woman's ERG leader. So her story is rooted in authenticity, purpose, and growth. It is one of the many things that many of us can resonate with, and especially in the moments of transition and reinvention. So, Janani, thank you once again for joining us, and we are truly excited to hear your journey and reflections today. So, let's get started and let's take a step back. So this is the first question that I have for you today. So when you think about, say, midlife, what were your first-hand expectations or experience, versus what you're actually experiencing today?
Well, Valerie, first of all, thank you for having me. And second of all, I love this title called Empowered. That also gives you an indication, I am empowered, right? Yes. So let's go ahead with it. See, midlife, to lots of them might look like this is the time when I would be progressing in my career. I would be probably hitting a greater heights. That's the way things looks normal to you, but that's not reality. Midlife is the time where your hormones are all messed up. You are having an identity crisis versus am I going to give a higher priority to my family, to my own health, or to my career progression? Where do I stand? What do I prioritize? And many more questions. That is reality.
You end up having so much questions, going around. And then, was it something that's very sudden where you hit midlife and then suddenly all this question came about? Or was it something that you're kind of like already prepared for?
Oh, well, I don't think so. We, the Asian women, are ever prepared on that because, we always prioritize on something or the other, right? And see, career definitions are not the same for everyone. And I somehow have this feeling in my mind for a long time that the career definition has been done as per probably taking a male as an example. Like, in 20s, you start as a fresher or you have just graduated and you're trying to work somewhere. In 30s, you're trying to put in your best efforts and trying to get in promotions. And 40s are where you probably settle in as a manager, right? Let's look back for a woman's journey. 20s again is the time where you're starting your career, but 30s is the time where you are trying to have babies, you're trying to settle into a family. So 40s is definitely where you're hitting your mid-career, mid-life, and also this time where your hormones are reset and you're trying to figure out lots of things.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think you touched on a point where, the woman's career journey. So now that, you have built an inspiring career and, at this stage of life, how have your professional goals or even personal definition of success evolved?
Well, I would like to share this with everyone. Lots of things, right, which used to look fine to me, say 10 years ago, don't take the bracket now. Lots of things that used to make me feel energized don't make me feel energized. So
Mm.
I have learned to be mindful. I have learned to prepare a list of things that don't fit into my bracket of success. You have to slowly learn to let them go. You will need to reassess your goals. You will also need to reassess how do I balance in my energy? How do I make sure that I'm not having my stress levels going really high where I could feel crash, right? So you need to learn what is working well for me and what is not. That decision is very important for every woman.
Would that be in a case where, if you don't mind me asking, kind of something like a trial and error, where you're gonna go out there and figure, what works, what doesn't work? Or is it drawing from, what you have been through, and then, you're at this stage of life, where everything's kind of coming in together, and then you kind of reassess it?
Okay. Well, it's a combination of everything. And to be very frank, it's still, I think, lots of women associated with some kind of stigma that they don't speak about it, Valerie. You
Mm.
agree with it, right? We don't speak about it. So I think each one, the symptoms that you are experiencing might be different. I would rather suggest go and join in forums where you could find some peer support who is going through a similar journey. Or at
Mm.
this point, you might even need a mentor who's aware of what could be the certain changes you are dealing with. To few, it might be just their hormones. To few, it might end up as having a very high stress where you're not able to balance between your career and your family. Or to some, it might pose a serious health challenges. So I'd strongly suggest is look for some kind of peer mentor, look for some kind of support groups. So that is where I always speak about this word called ERG, employee resource groups, which is supported and funded by most of the organizations because they see that as a necessity that they are supporting women in workplace. So I would say if you are a woman who's working, look for a ERG around you who could support you, who would understand what's that you are going through and how do you deal with it.
I entirely agree with you. Having that community of support really
Mm,
matters. Because sometimes you expect maybe your children to understand or maybe expect your spouse to understand. But then you also want to have, colleagues or friends out there who can, face
absolutely.
face with you. Yeah, so just like earlier, you also touched on a point where, the family changes, family dynamics changes, during your
Yeah.
midlife. Because, many women actually experience shifts at home as well, whether
Okay.
it's like, they're teenagers growing up or
Mm.
parents aging, how have this, say, changing family dynamics shaped your sense of purpose?
Well, to be honest on this, right, I have seen too many changes. See, for me, 40s has brought in changes like my older child getting her O levels or my younger child writing her PSLE. So it's not just me supporting them, but I was also going through a phase where I found myself in a weaker zone. I
Mm,
wanted help. Physically, I'm feeling that, I have an energy draining out.
mm,
Or me feeling that, oh my God, the burden of having these thoughts in my mind. Am I going for promotions or am I going to prioritize my health? The burden of those thoughts randomly popping up is very heavy. So, what
mm.
has helped me is definitely focusing more on my health, carrying out some mindful activities. It could be even yoga or forming a group of friends who could take walks. That could definitely help me out. To me, I feel that having a support group around me is beneficial any single day. People who are of my similar age group or who have children of my age group, when you openly discuss with them what kind of concerns our children are going through or what kind of support you could give them, that helps me.
That's so lovely. So, we move on to the part where we talk a little bit about, health, right, and navigating
Yeah.
health. So, when it comes to health and, navigating through, menopause care, as we all know, can be a little bit tricky. So, what's your experience in finding menopause informed healthcare support, especially when you were back in Singapore?
I'll tell you one thing that changed my definition.
Mm,
I was in a ERG summit, and one of the ERG leaders from India told me that they had this menopause talk.
mm,
And almost 50% of the attendees were not women, but men who came and joined them. And after that session, men came back to the organizers and told them a compliment. You know what, guys, this session was amazing. And I never knew that my mom or my wife or my sister has to go through so many fluctuations. This talk was so enriching that now I know how do I support that person in my life. So I think, we have to make this into a norm. This is an awareness that we are trying to spread. It could not be just women, but men who are supporting us, right? Probably as a caregiver as well. So we need to normalize this kind of conversation. And Valerie, one of the things that I really loved about the event that you had organized last year is you have made it into a normal conversation. There is nothing wrong where a woman is speaking about peri or even the menopause, or even saying that, yes, I'm going through those hormonal fluctuations and I need help, normalizing those conversations, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I think when you mentioned about how men are involved in this conversation, it's something that we look at, having male allies, really to
Right.
yeah, part of this whole thing, right? We talk about menopause, we talk about wanting changes, but the men they themselves need to be involved. And I think touching
Right.
on last year's menopause festival, I wanted to share is that
Right.
it's really heartening for me to do something like that. As someone who's not going through, but doing this because of my mother. Because I realized that when my mother found that it was safe for her to talk to me, she opened up so much. There was so many things for her to share, and I felt like women out there should also have this safe space, and which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm sorry for the little bit of digress, but
No,
that's like
no, no. That's
one of the
no.
questions.
This is a real thing that someone shared
Yeah,
me, and Rakuten India is that company who organized this event, which men attended. So this has happened in the past, guys, and 50% of the attendees were men.
I love this. We need this, in Singapore and in a lot of other countries, where men are much more involved.
Yeah. And darling,
Yeah.
can I tell you one more thing that is needed in Singapore or even in Asia back?
Mm.
We need to have that kind of education or probably that kind of additional support in the form of, say, you have a counselor or you have some kind of healthcare practitioners visiting your office, giving women some time off to go and speak to them, right? Lots of us talk about perks in the office, probably free snacks or free lunches or things like that. I think if women are given these kind of communities, a health practitioner support where they could speak freely, they would appreciate it more.
Yes, I agree. I think we have done a few corporate events during International Women's Day, but I personally feel like it spends, out of International Women's Day, right? It's really, it's all year round. You don't need to just do it at that month, at
Right,
that time.
right.
So
Often we have that misconception. Women's Day is a one day event. Rather normalize these kind of conversations. That's more important.
yes, yes. Yeah, so I think it also touches on, I realize that some of the women, when it comes to talking about things like, let's be honest, when we talk about menopause related stuff, essentially it equates like period health, right? Because it's a cessation of
Right,
period. And I do
right.
think that, some women might be a little bit hesitant to talk about it, but yet internally they really do want to talk about it. So,
Hmm.
what advice would you give to this woman who might be, really hesitant to advocate for their own, healthcare needs? Or even for other women.
Probably, I think they should be given a safe space. See,
Mm.
when we go back, probably they didn't have that opportunity or the safe space to speak where they found themselves that, yes, everyone around me will be going through it and I could trust them. I'll give you an example again. I did attend a talk where women spoke about how maternity gave them this kind of thoughts that am I lagging behind in my careers? Right now, I'm going through a childbirth. Half my time is spent in nursing my kid, but my male peers probably are doing their best at workplace and they're getting promotions and things like that while I'm blamed for missing some hours at work. Women were able to speak up. Women were able to have this conversation in a safe. So I think menopause related conversations also should be held in that kind of safe space where you look around you and see that, oh yes, everyone is a woman of probably my age group. They would have gone through this or they will go through this. So I need to speak up. That confidence comes once you create that space.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. I love it that they need to have that confidence and it comes from a safe space like this. So, when it comes to creating safe space, some of the women, okay, example, we want to bring in male allies, right? Some of these
Yeah.
women might also be a little bit hesitant on having the men involved. Right? So what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, there are lots of them. I have seen this with the women's ERG as well. So I would suggest, have a roundtable kind of chat discussions with women only. If you see that people are not turning up to that conversation or not to the events, that's a clear indication that probably shyness. I wouldn't say at this point, not trusting. I would say shyness. It's an Asian culture, or still we find it as a stigma that we are not speaking to others. Rather have a roundtable conference if you are inviting women, have women of a particular age group, 40 plus together. Then you see how things will proceed further.
Huh. Yeah, I think, when it comes to, healthcare needs, right? Did you find it difficult for you to, example, find a doctor that's able to empathize with you? Or did you even see a doctor when you're going through these changes?
Oh, well, I would say Singapore is more open. I didn't find any difficulties in Singapore. When you speak about even women's health, you do have specific physiotherapists who help
Mm,
you out. There are gynecics. There is a lot of support in Singapore. Valerie,
mm.
so I wouldn't deny that at all. However, I would say that this kind of information is still not there around you in the corporate. Corporates could do a much better job in spreading awareness or even standing for equal rights. When I say equal rights, can we bring in some kind of flexibility? Maybe some kind of leaves where a woman doesn't need to keen a reason. Why am I taking this? People might be shy, as you said, right? I'm not yet ready to speak up. I'm going through these kind of hormonal changes. Can you give some kind of flexible leaves where a woman could take those leaves when she is having those mood swings or hormonal imbalances? You are free to take those leaves. That will make a better difference in their lives.
Yeah, I think there's something some companies they have this thing called the menopause leave, right? Where they just want to take.
Heard of menstrual leaves? I haven't heard of menopause leaves.
I
Okay.
think there's a few companies that do have that, but I don't think they are in Singapore. But I think I do know Standard Chartered and HSBC might have a few policies related to menopause. Yeah, and
I see.
yeah, and I hear so much about needing the woman to test, to monitor, and to really understand their own bodies. This sounds like there's so many things, and it can be really so overwhelming, just by being a woman, right? So how did you actually
Absolutely.
approach, getting this clarity and really taking ownership of your own midlife health?
I wouldn't say there is a particular template. I
Mm,
would rather say assess through what are you going. See, if there is a time where you are required to step in into a probably a career transition,
mm,
go back and see, do I need that transition at this moment? Or do I have a manager to whom I could speak frankly that yes, I definitely am open to promotions. I'm definitely open to a career transition, but this might not be the right opportunity for me. At this time, I would like to prioritize on my health. Or can I come back to you once I'm ready? I think this kind of conversations have to be done with your manager. That is very important. And secondly, as I said, you will need to look at what things are not working for you.
mm.
You will not have the same energy that you had in your 20s or in your 30s, right? So you will have to see, is this decision worth it? Am I putting in my energy into something that's going to be fruitful? So that kind of decisions and clarity is something that every woman needs to make.
I'm not in my midlife yet. So, I'm in my
Yeah.
20s where I have that energy. But I think there's something that is a conversation that I do have with my mother. And,
Uh-huh.
she was in her midlife. She was also going through a lot of changes, right?
Uh-huh.
And she managed to find a job that she calls it her calling, which is,
Uh-huh.
really, really lovely to hear that from her. She really enjoys what she does. And, she also mentioned to me like how she did not really have the energy anymore to really like, in Singapore, we call it chiong, right? Imagine
Uh,
just rushing through, wanting to climb that career ladder and all. And then now she's in her 50s. She's like, I want to take a step back. Right? I want to do what's meaningful for me.
right? See,
Right?
she shouldn't have this feeling in her mind that I'm losing that edge or I'm
Mm,
losing that competitive spirit that I have. So you'll have to let go of certain things. And I have this thought always in my mind that probably the career as it was presented to us, it was not designed keeping up women in their minds. It was probably male centered.
I love it. Learning to let go and really reassess, what are the things you need in this phase of life. So
Correct.
looking ahead, what excites you most about this next chapter of your life?
Oh, well, I say this often as well. There are seasons in women's
Mhm.
lives, right? So I consider this as probably the spring where you're taking time, where you're relaxing, or it could be even the winter where this is like, you are not feeling well and this is the time you're not feeling to step out itself. So it could be spring to some, it could be winter to some. Anyway, you are definitely regaining your energy. Take some rest. And then when you come out, it would be the time your energy is completely renewed. You come back with a better clarity, with a better energy and a better version of yourself.
Do you have one quick tip on how is a woman gonna regain this clarity? Like just a quick tip that they could do it like maybe right now.
Well, as women, we are used to doing hundreds of things at the same time. We are the multitaskers, right? I would say knock off some things from your list. I don't need to do them. Just throw them out. Prioritize on things that really matter to you. That will help you regain your energy. And
Sounds
other than that, at least in Singapore, we have access to so much of health promotion board activities and things like that. So find a group of friends and join in any activity that you love. It could be Zumba. It could be a simpler exercise that you do with these bands and stuff, right? See what gives you that enthusiasm. How could you spend in time with your girlfriends? That would give you the energy.
Super lovely. Very, very applicable for Singaporeans here because you have the healthy 365, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, health promotion board keeps running those activities. Why are we not utilizing it?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember my friend took me to a Bollywood dancing class somewhere around Raffles Place. She said, "Come on, we're going in." I really miss that kind of moments now.
That sounds very lovely. I recall like I do walk around in town and I do see like groups around in various, they're just doing activities that can look so fun. And I think it's really the community it brings, and everyone just like, oh, let's do this, let's do it now, let's do it out here.
Yeah. Or even find that Saturday evenings where you could play mahjong with your friends. There's no age on that, right? All you need is some time off from your regular activities so that you could refresh your mind.
And find and refine your new joy.
Absolutely. And one tip I have for everyone is, see, guys, this is a time where you might be having this emptiness syndrome or other things that my kid is going to transition to NS or my kid is going to go to college. Those thoughts, those fears that also run in your mind. I think you'll have to let go, shed all those fears, empower our own children that yes, you would be able to make those right decisions. Guide, that's it. It would be helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah, so the last one that we're gonna go into is if you could leave our listeners with one truth about aging and midlife, what would it be?
Aging at midlife, is it? One truth. Okay. Well, this is a time where your career, your health, your hormones, and lots of decisions are going to intersect, guys. Please see which ones you want to prioritize. See, to certain people at this point, they get their promotions, they get their job changes. Get it, then go ahead with it. For some, it might be this is the time where you need to really focus on your health. You need to take a break. If that's so, please don't hesitate. Take a break. Prioritize.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Janani, for joining us today. And with that, we will be closing the session. And thank you so much.
Thank you. See you then. Bye bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Empower with me, Valerie Tan, co-founder of Shruti. I hope today's episode gave you actionable ideas to support yourself or someone through the midlife journey. If this resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share the podcast with someone in your life who cares about midlife well-being. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn at ShrutiSG, visit our website at shrutisg.com, check out our Instagram, and also have a look at our contents, services, as well as events. Now, here's a huge thanks to you for listening. Until next time, let's stay empowered.